right, welcome back to the Jay and Nick podcast. Last couple weeks, a lot has happened with the whole Epstein investigation, and this week we're going to cover and try and stay on topic and focus on Ghislaine Maxwell and what's going on with her and Jeffrey Epstein and all the craziness going on behind that.
Oh, it's fucking nuts, man. A lot of shit went down. Obviously, so I mean, as far as Epstein himself, not a whole lot in terms of like investigation going on, but with her being captured or prosecuted coming up down the line. Currently, we stand. She had her first court hearing, I believe, Friday. Today's Saturday, and right now
today's Saturday. Well, what's today's date? Let's get that in there just to make sure that July 11th.
And so yeah, the question is, realistically at this point, will she reveal any of the names or clientele that was used?
Will she get the chance? Do you think she's going to make it?
So realistically, I kind of get the impression that she's already made the deal. I think everyone's been discussed what's going to happen, how it's going to take fold and everything. And I think at this point, whatever she's going to reveal is already kind of known amongst the prosecutors and the intelligence community and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So we'll see.
I mean, she's in there. Last I heard was on Friday. Her lawyers were trying to push for her to be on house arrest due to COVID-19 concerns. I know she's in some prison in Manhattan right now, right?
Well, she was in her house in New Hampshire originally, and then they were going to transport her, but because, like I said, the COVID concerns, they basically did a video conference type of thing. And I think it was really just a bail hearing, and they were going to see what she, if she poses a flight risk.
Can't they just, like, put her in a bunker somewhere? Like, seriously? Like, why bring her to another prison in New York City?
I know.
Anywhere else? I mean, she was picked up in New Hampshire. Is there not, like, a place in New Hampshire where she could stay, like anywhere but New York,
like a New Hampshire federal prison
bunker with armed guards, and don't let anybody with pantsuits near her.
Well, the thing is too, I mean, she has all the information about who he was with and the video recordings and all that kind of stuff. Majority of that has already been taken by the FBI. So that information they pretty much have. The question is, will she reveal it publicly?
Start naming names and dropping all this kind of stuff.
Exactly. All she has to do is hit a fucking Twitter, and next thing you know, names are dropping left and right. Oh, I was with this person, and they did this, and blah blah blah. And that person's life is pretty much screwed from here on out.
Well, let's say they did let her be on house arrest, and she went back to her New Hampshire home. What do you think she would do? What do you think would happen? I think she would probably try to get the first flight out of there, or
I mean. The problem is,
somebody's gonna bomb her house or something. She's gonna drop a drone or some shit.
I don't know, man. I don't know, because I mean, at the same time, like she's not him. She's not Epstein himself.
Yeah.
So he was the number one hit to take out.
Is there somebody behind him? Is there somebody bigger than him?
Oh, of course. Well, no, not in terms of this ring. There was no there's no.
So
little
he was
Jeff
the top
Island.
head honcho. There was no where where he got all his money and stuff is another thing. But so Ghislaine Maxwell, she was a girlfriend of Jeffrey Epstein.
She was an English woman, and she came over to New York City and started partying with the elites, essentially, as, I don't know, financial... I don't want to speak, like, without evidence or anything, but basically she got into the New York elite financial parties. And then when they obviously knew who Epstein was, they connected, and from there, it was basically a relationship. And, it's nuts how it just kind of transpired from there, because going back to his life a little bit, I mean, he started off as a teacher at a private school or whatever, which he was noted for being a little making advancements towards the students, let's say. Ironic. And then he gets picked up by Bear Stearns as a floor trader, and he works his way up, and all of which he does without the degree that he says he has, so they believe him on that. And then while he's at Bear Stearns as a financial advisor, basically making tons of money off of it, trading stocks and options and so on, that's where he makes his connects to some of the beginning stages of what will be his clientele list. So like you said before, he was hooking up with the owner of the Victoria's Secret company. And I mean, from there, you have connects to other people. And then, it just transpired into basically these guys hosting parties and being at some of the top New York elite parties that led him to make connections and also to be affiliated with the right people at the right time.
Mm-hmm. He's affiliated with a shit ton of people.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's gonna be crazy. So, did you find anything else this week? Anything interesting? Anything mind-boggling?
I did look into some stuff where she was seen in a photo with Elon Musk.
Okay.
Apparently, they deny those claims, saying that she just photobombed them. They were at a, I think it was like an Emmys or something like that.
Yeah.
And Elon Musk was there, and then she just popped up out of nowhere. But
yeah,
that's an interesting thing, because you don't know who is really involved. I've seen a lot of stuff. Donald Trump, there's a lot of photos with them. Donald Trump, Melania Trump.
Yep.
And it gets really weird.
So going off that a little bit, there was, when the feds raided the Manhattan mansion, essentially, they got a bunch of stuff out of there, books, all this kind of stuff. One of the things, I don't know if they found it in that one raid per se, but they did find what was called a black book. And in that black book is a list of all the contacts, including the girls who were the client, whatever you want to call them, the workers per se. And so you have all the lists of the girls, and you have all the list of all the people that he had contact with. The problem with that is if you're not really looking into it, you may get the wrong assumption, which is that anybody on that list was a client of Epstein's, as well as people who flew on the flights. So we know Clinton flew 26 times. We know that many other people, I'm sure Elon Musk was on that flight at one point.
Kevin Spacey, I think Bill Gates, even after the allegations in 08, he was still flying on that plane.
Same thing, huh? Yeah. But the thing is, with this, is that it's kind of complicated, because just because you flew on the plane doesn't necessarily mean you were utilizing the services. And what I was kind of looking into a little bit was which people flew on and this and that. And at one point there was on the list, Barbara Walters was in that black book. And, you know, you kind of go through the list a little bit more and you start to see, like, okay, there's a lot of women that flew on this plane as well. And then there's actresses and celebrities, and they're like, yeah, we were on the plane. We had no idea who this guy was. We didn't know why we were flying on it. And that was that. So there's this weird kind of like gray zone with, if you think, when you hear the name and Epstein, you automatically assume they were doing the pedophilia stuff, but that's not necessarily true. Yeah,
that makes for a very interesting case. And basically you could call anybody a pedophile that was linked to him, associated with him, and a picture with him. But the fact that his web goes so deep, is mind-boggling.
So, yeah, I mean, kind of a lot of my research this week was basically built upon when he got charged in 2008 down in Florida. He was originally charged by the local police department for prostitution, basically providing prostitution services for underage girls. Once they saw how big this case was, they ended up bringing in the FBI, and the FBI launched its own separate investigation. And in the process of that,
didn't they bring the FBI in though after like the local police investigation? I think it was in Florida.
Yeah.
And it was basically going nowhere. And the one cop or something like that basically wrote to the FBI and said, you know, we don't agree with the outcome of this and we want you to look into it. And that's how they got involved, I think.
Yeah. They were, I'm not sure about how the case was proceeding when they called it in, per se. I mean, that's a good point, they were. But I do know they called in the FBI thinking that this needs to be prosecuted. This is a legit, serious, big-time ring, nationwide, many people involved. We need to be a federal bureau investigation, basically. So what's kind of crazy about this is the FBI launches an investigation and they call it Operation Leap Year, which I'm not sure why they would call it fucking leap year, but whatever. So they launched the investigation, and according to the Miami Herald, once the investigation was ready to be prosecuted, the federal prosecutor, Alex Acosta, meets with Epstein's lawyers, one of which was Alan Dershowitz, which I'm probably butchering the name, but he was a Harvard law professor amongst other people on that team. He literally had one meeting. Alex Acosta, federal prosecutor, has one meeting with Epstein's lawyers, and they dropped the case.
Yeah.
Okay. When that took place, The FBI, according to their investigation report by the Miami Herald, had 34 minors eligible for restitution, which in other words is basically compensation for the victims. You have an FBI prosecutor ready to bring down charges, federal charges, with 34 minors, and at one point the allegations were as high as 80 victims at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden in one meeting you drop that case.
Yeah, some shady shit.
So, did a little more digging. In 2017, that federal prosecutor, Alex Acosta, when he was being interviewed by what was known as a Trump transition team, when he was basically going to go into the Trump administration, because basically after the charges got minusculely dropped, which actually, let me recount that. The charges got dropped. He ended up only serving, he got charged for 18 months for underage prostitution, which was the original charge.
Yep.
But they were state charges, not federal. So you have all your federal charges basically dropped. You got federal immunity and so on.
Which is bullshit.
Amen. He ends up being charged for 18 months. He ends up only serving 13 months. And 3.5 months into serving this, he is allowed out for work release, 12 hours a day for 6 days a week. This guy pretty much got to live his life and had to do like a day and a half a week of fucking serving for 13 months. So that right there, at least to me, was a huge indicator that there was something significantly bigger tied into the situation. What's the first thing you could think of? Intelligence, right off the bat. So, fast forward, and Alex Acosta's doing this interview, and it's reported that he said, and I quote, "I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone. It was above my pay grade."
Yeah, yeah.
Above your fucking pay grade? Bro, you're a federal prosecutor. That's insane.
It is.
Right? So he gets dropped. So right there, you know something else was going on. Significantly. For a pedophile ring kingpin to be dropped and given immunity on all federal charges like that. It's got to be ties.
Well, yeah, it has to be ties. And I don't know. I don't know how you feel about that, but if you're a pedophile and you get caught and you serve less than 18 months, I mean, my opinion, all pedophiles should just get a fucking bullet. Yeah. Bang, bang, boom. It's cheap, you know?
It's cheap. Cheaper than doing the execution via the electric chair and poisoning and all that shit. Yeah, dude, it's fucking nuts.
And then the fiasco that it turned into when he got picked up in, when was this? This was
08.
No, the second time.
2019.
2019, got picked up. The whole fiasco with the cameras and the suicide.
What'd you say the last time? Like, all the cameras are pointing at the fucking Wendy's burning down, but they can't point them at one guy in a cell.
Yeah, right? We got cameras everywhere.
Yeah, that's fucking nuts. Yeah, so then right there, you know, right off the bat, that there's intelligence ties, right?
Yeah. Did you hear about people like calling for Ghislaine Maxwell to have cameras being live streamed so everybody can watch her? I don't know how well that would go down. I mean, I guess it's a good concept, but I could see her like sending messages out, like doing like sign language and signaling people through the internet.
Dude, if half the fucking drug cartel leaders can get out of prison.
Can you imagine like if it was live streamed and then all of a sudden it goes black, everybody's gonna be freaking out.
What the fuck? Are you kidding me? Yeah.
All right, so back to Ghislaine Maxwell. She was the head pimp in charge of recruiting and getting these girls to do these things, and then getting those girls to get other girls. You know, the spider web goes very deep on that. Back to the whole, all these people who are involved and stuff like that. One point I like to throw out there, you know, Donald Trump, he's the president of the United States. He is in all these photos. And, you know, there was the instance where apparently he kicked Jeff Epstein off his resort or something like that after something went down. I'm not 100% sure what happened there.
Okay.
But the point I want to make is that if Trump is involved in all of this, let's say he's trying to cover it up, why does he have Attorney General Barr and all these other people he's appointing looking into this? Why is he launching this human trafficking mission in That's tied into the enhanced narcotics mission, which happened recently during the COVID epidemic, right? All around a lot of this stuff is all happening at the same time. It's all like coming to a head. I think at some point we're going to see a lot of stuff, but my point is, if he is involved, why is he doing all this stuff to bring it to light? I believe he was also involved with that attorney in the Southern District of New York who was kind of keeping a wraps on a lot of things tied to the Clintons, tied to Jeffrey Epstein, and then he gets fired. The new prosecutor comes in, and 12 days later, Ghislaine Maxwell is arrested.
So your question is, why would Trump launch all this, basically?
Yeah, if he was involved, why would he basically do this stuff instead of trying to cover it up?
I mean, I have no reason to believe that he was a client of Epstein. I mean, who knows?
I don't have a reason to believe it either, but there was that video where he's kind of like all buddy-buddy.
Well, they partied together. I mean, these guys are like mid-30s, 40, young 40-year-old guys at like New York elite parties, and there's, I believe, a report of, I don't want to say Kansas, like some football team's cheerleader like encampment basically was at the party. Now, I don't know about you, man, but if I was drinking with a bunch of my guy friends and there's a bunch of cheerleaders around, I'm gonna try to have fun. Not like that, but I'm just saying, you're gonna be loose, you're gonna be laughing, you're gonna be drinking, you're gonna be like kicking around like, hey man, look at that, what's going on? That kind of stuff. But
that was just the point I wanted to bring up. So like, you have all these people that might be involved. Whether or not they are innocent or guilty, that's a whole nother story. I see tons of theories going out there that like people are on house arrest. Oprah Winfrey's on house arrest. Ellen DeGeneres is on house arrest.
For this investigation?
For this, tied into all this shit.
Get the fuck out. I didn't hear about that. Wow.
Do not know if any of that is true or if it holds water, but it's going out there on the internet.
Especially
with TikTok. They're trying to get rid of TikTok. And I do see
India outlawed it.
Well, I can see why. I mean, it's a Chinese company. It's got more active users than Facebook.
Yep.
And you see a lot of conspiracy theories on there. You see a lot of people that are following all of this stuff, following the Jeffrey Epstein investigation and finding all this crazy stuff. I don't know if I mentioned it already, but that there was a photo with Ghislaine Maxwell and John Benet Ramsey. That's interesting as fuck.
Right. But again, like I was explaining with the Black Book, like just because they partied together or they were, even if they flew on the plane, you can't use that alone. You can use it as a launching point to investigation. But there's plenty of female celebrities that I'm pretty sure we're not touching little girls at any point. So to me, just because there's a picture
it could be little boys too,
It could be. And again, it's worth the investigation, 100%.
It is.
But when you look at that list and how many people were on it, how many people flew in it, how many blah, 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 it's like if you try to launch a full-blown investigation against every single name on that contact list,
you would go bankrupt and it would go nowhere.
This would take you a decade, easily. So you have to go with the ones that are like the prime factors. Like, I don't know why Clinton is not arrested right now. I mean, that dude clearly has history of being dirty and flying on this plane 20-something times. Like, listen, dude, you don't need to fly on somebody else's jet 27 times unless there's a reason you want to be there.
Maybe they have more information than they're letting on.
Of course they do.
Did you see that painting that was in Epstein's?
There was a bunch.
The one with Bill Clinton in the blue dress?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Why? He's got his leg up and he's sitting there like, That's something else, though. I mean, but you know why he did that?
Why?
So, supposedly, the reason he has that painting is to show Bill, like, I got you.
Got you, bitch.
I got you, motherfucker. You want to pull strings on me? Guess what?
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. But,
yeah,
it's nuts, dude.
What if it is like some kind of deep, like CIA fucking...
Okay, so this is where it gets interesting. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
Let's go.
All right. So, one of the main contacts with Epstein was Adnan Khashoggi. Adnan was one of the largest arms dealers in the 80s, so much so he was regarded as pretty much the world's richest man at the time, with an estimated wealth of about $10 billion. Yeah. This guy, if you remember Iran-Contra, We sold the arms to Israel, and then Israel sold the arms to Iran. He was the guy that orchestrated the deal between Israel and Iran. That's how big he was, basically.
Yeah.
All right. Side note on this dude, he had, at the time, the world's most expensive yacht, which he named after his daughter. He ended up having to sell the yacht down the road. The yacht goes to another Saudi somebody, high-ranking official, who ends up selling it to Trump for like, I don't know, almost $30 million or some shit.
Really?
Yeah. So Trump has it at one point. Then the Taj Mahal casino goes under. So to avoid bankruptcy, Trump sells the fucking yacht.
Okay.
To pay off his Taj Mahal deficit, basically.
Who does he sell it to?
I don't know, somebody else. Not important from what I could gather.
No.
So you have Adnan Khashoggi, who is a Turkish descent, but born in Saudi Arabia. His father at the time is the doctor to the king of Saudi Arabia. So he gets ties through the Saudis with all the government, high-ranking officials and the super elite and all that kind of stuff. He organizes all these arms dealing all around the world, boom, boom, boom. So he has ties, not only through the Black Book, but being affiliated with Epstein. There's evidence to show that they were financed not only while Epstein was working at Bear Stearns, but after that as well, when there were other Israeli defense contractors setting up businesses that Epstein helped fund and donate to. Why that's important is because we're going to take a little side project here. Khashoggi, he was the uncle to Jamal Khashoggi. Jamal was a Saudi journalist. He was anti the prince and the king of Saudi Arabia. So in 2000, let me get these dates right. 2017, he decides to personally leave the country and come to America, basically looking for self-exile. 2017, he ends up working for a company called the Washington Post. In 2013, the Washington Post was bought out by Jeff Bezos.
Jeff Bezos.
Who flew on Epstein's flight quite a bit.
Jeff Bezos did?
Yeah. I mean, not a lot, I shouldn't say a lot, but he definitely was on there. Also known as the Lolita Express.
The Lolita Express.
A Boeing 727 with 200 passenger capacity.
200 passenger capacity? I thought it was a small plane. It's a big plane.
It's fucking private though, man. I guess if you have multiple rooms on it.
Yeah.
So you have Jamal Khashoggi. He's in the U.S. and he's still reporting about all his anti-Saudi opposition, all this kind of stuff. The Saudis are pissed about this. So in 2016, the Saudi elections kick off November 7th to November 9th. Now, a reporter for a journalist by the name of Aaron Rosenwald, which was cited in a Insider article, went through all the flight information that he could find publicly, and he lays it all out in the article if you're interested in looking it up, basically showing that the Lolita Express on those dates flew from Paris to Riyadh, which is supposedly the capital of Saudi Arabia. So the Epstein's fucking plane is in the Saudi capital during the elections times when Bezos is having a meeting with the Saudi prince. Okay. So basically the Saudis are pissed at the journalist who works for the Washington Post, who is owned by Jeff Bezos. Bezos is now meeting with those Saudis.
Jesus Christ.
This is in 2016. Right?
Yep.
Okay. Now, that Khashoggi guy, the uncle, I know it's going to look confusing, but bear with me here. The uncle dies in June of 2017. In October of the same year, I'm sorry, I take that back, 2018. The uncle dies in 2018. September, that journalist flies to the Saudi consulate in Istanbul and is assassinated by 15 members of the Saudi government.
Yeah, what a way to go.
Right there and then. So, recapping with that, you basically had the flight available to Saudi Arabia for the meeting between the owner of the Washington Post and the Saudi king. Okay. So that's how Epstein was tied in with that. Now, what's crazy about this is that when the feds launched their raid on the Manhattan house, they go into the safe, and in the safe, they find a passport. It's an Austrian passport with Epstein's photo, but a different name, and guess where the place of residency is at?
Saudi Arabia?
Saudi Arabia, baby! He had a fucking passport in the 80s going back to the Saudis.
Holy shit.
Get the fuck out of here. You kidding me?
I don't think he's dead. I really don't. I don't
know,
think
man.
Epstein is dead. I think
know.
he's alive. He's got to be.
He could be.
If he's so tied into all this shit, he's still motherfucking alive.
He's got to be. He's got to be. And the fact that, let's look over my notes real quick. The fact that he has other high-ranking officials, he has direct ties to Israel self-defense contractors, businesses starting up in the area, all while the Iran-Contra, the big arm dealing, the American proxy war funding, all that kind of stuff is taking place. He is flying around the country, around the world essentially, with these officials. How do you not have ties into intelligence at that point? As far as I understand, from all the arms dealing illegally through the intelligence agencies, they didn't do it directly.
Mm-hmm.
They did through pipelines. So what I'm thinking is they just used Epstein as one of their pipeline assets to set up the connections, work the deals, and make sure the money got to where it needed to be.
Mm-hmm. Do they even need Ghislaine Maxwell at this point?
Yes.
Why?
So she, although the surface charges that I understand are going to be presented are basically going to be about procuring, bringing in, recruiting the girls and all that kind of stuff for the services.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that alone could be a charge which is not too significant. What, again, I said before, what's going to be interesting about this is whether or not she's going to reveal any of this information. And I think the reason, if I was the government officials handling this case, and my concern was she can't talk about all the shit that happened because we would be at fault. Because think about this. If evidence is evidently clear that he was working with these arms dealers
Mm-hmm.
for intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
then intelligence had to have known. That's basically them admitting they knew what he was doing with the island, the girls, and everything. How do you think America's going to react when they find out that our government was basically funding pedophilia rings? Indirectly, basically, by not charging them, essentially. Just allowing.
Is that indirectly at that point when you know like all this shit? I mean, you're the CIA fucking A and FBI and whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do you not know that this is some sort of broad scheme to entrap people to get them to do what you want them to do? Or
Yeah, again, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that back in 2008, when they were launching the FBI investigation, that they knew what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they always really know what's going on. The question is, can they present a case again? Can they present charges, the evidence for it, blah, blah, blah? Do they want to make it a bigger ring and see what other kingpins are involved and bring it all down in one shot? That's one thing.
But I think it just goes way bigger than just the girls, and just, not to make it sound like they're on a lower level and it's a whole nother story, but it just goes way beyond that.
Yeah. And that's what's absolutely fucking crazy about this. Again, think about it.
I mean, it goes into royalty. Prince Andrew's, like, he's guilty as hell.
So, what do you do when you have one person taken down, basically, for pedophilia? But by him going down, in order to actually press these charges, there would be evidence coming out about these operations taking place. And you're a government prosecutor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the moral thing would be to do it, but in the process, that's going to be a shitstorm of investigation into all the other operations, the intelligence agencies and all these things were doing, and how much were they aware of it? Because again, knowing about it and not charging the case is one thing. Knowing about it and utilizing the services, that's a whole other thing.
Yep.
That's a whole other ballgame that I don't think most of America will be okay with.
I don't think anybody in America would be okay with this.
No. And that's why I think they're kind of shitting a brick right now with Maxwell. I think what they really did, I don't think they're pressing charges against her because they feel like, oh, she did a bad thing, which obviously she did. But I think what they're doing is trying to keep her contained. Basically putting the pressure on her, like if she leaves the country, she can go on any social media, she can do whatever the fuck she wants, and she can voice her opinion and everyone's going to listen to it. Now, if they can charge her and imprison her or whatever, they can contain it.
Yeah, but what do you think about, like, her just being out there for all this time? On our last podcast, we mentioned, why is she out there? She should have been arrested. She should have been arrested right away.
Absolutely.
So when they arrested Epstein,
Absolutely.
they should have arrested her.
Mm-hmm.
Why did they let her just go around, do whatever, and they didn't know where she was? They knew exactly where she was. They were tracking her the entire time.
Absolutely.
I guarantee it.
Absolutely.
And that's some big stuff.
So again, I mean, with her, with Bill Clinton and all the other people, I mean, you have black and white cases where there should have been prosecution. or there should have been arrests made per se.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get into the gray zone of like, well, were these other people actually involved? Did they blah 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 blah? The black and white situation, I think the only reason these people are not being arrested at this time, or starting to actually unfold now, is because of the ties they have to intelligence. That their connections, I mean, granted, the plea deal that was agreed upon for Epstein in 2008 with his lawyers, granted, I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure granted immunity from all federal charges for her as well. Not positive about that, but from what I remember reading a couple weeks ago, it sounded like she was basically sanctioned under that.
Well, I could see her getting some sort of deal like that.
Yeah.
Especially if she has that kind of information on all these people.
Yeah.
How can you not bargain that?
It's fucking nuts.
Who was I listening to? I was listening to the Dan Bongino report, and he was saying something where she's going to get offered this Queen of the Day deal. And it's basically, you get one chance to spill the beans on everything that you know, and as long as it comes out to be true, we'll use that to lower your sentence. So you have one chance, one day to get it out there, and she has to have some sort of deal like that.
Well, here's the other thing too. I mean, she could say, "I saw so and so and so so." So you have an eyewitness account. But the majority, I mean, if it's true that he had cameras everywhere and all this footage, and all that footage was basically confiscated from the raid, yeah, you're right. You really wouldn't need Maxwell's testimony to make these charges for the majority of the clientele that you served.
Yeah, I would like to start knowing what was in these videos and all this surveillance, all this stuff that they picked up. They have it. I mean, they definitely have it. Is it going to come out? What's going to happen with Ghislaine Maxwell? Is she going to make it to the court? Is she going to be able to... We're going to have to see. What do you guys think?
I don't know, man. I mean, I remember seeing online on social media, there was posts going up about they were making bets on pools of how she was going to kill herself. And it was like suicide by hanging, suicide by COVID, suicide by 2 shots to the back of the head. I mean, the list went on. Like, it got exaggerated, obviously. But, you know, the point is, like, yeah, she's not going to kill herself, but something's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because, again, her information is that fucking vital to where this goes.
All I know is if she dies, like, there has to be some kind of, I don't know, protest, riot, whatever. You got to open up them safes. Got to open up them safes or whatever they got.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, the problem is, like, in terms of, like, raising a civilian protest against it, I think, what would you be against? I mean, the fact that she was killed throughout the justice system, yes. I get that.
I mean, all of this, like, it all needs to come out and be exposed. And, I mean, we're already aware of it. We already learned, you know, our lesson from Jeffrey Epstein. Like, there should be all kinds of cameras. There should be people watching her 24/7. Shouldn't just be 2 guards who are falling asleep or buying stuff on Wayfair.com, you know.
Which I think they found out that Wayfair somehow is used for the prostitution services.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
It's a rumor.
Is it a rumor? Isn't that what they were on? They were on Wayfair, or were they on Amazon? I know they were buying some shit, or
yeah, they're buying
sleeping.
They're probably fucking buying cameras for the goddamn cell because they knew these were going to go out.
Oh, Jesus Christ. But we already learned our lesson. So we already know that Barr said it's not going to happen. Barr said that they're going to do everything within her power to make sure that she stays alive.
Yeah, they're going to say that. I mean, of course.
Well,
and now obviously we're all tipped into, we're all watching, we're all waiting. I'm sure they know that we're, as the American people, looking at this as like, okay, when's it going to happen? Is it going to tomorrow? You know?
So she's due into court this coming Tuesday, which is the 12th, 13th, 14th.
July 14th.
I think
this election is going to be fucking crazy.
Yeah.
No matter what happens with this, the result of this whole scenario is going to directly impact the election.
Well, going to the election, all right, let's say Donald Trump is involved, or let's say he's not involved. Okay? You have all these people who are involved. You already know Clinton's involved. You already know that a lot of people are involved. They're going to use this to smear Donald Trump.
Oh,
I mean, you know, there's rumors with Biden and stuff like that. I don't know if he's directly involved with Epstein or whatever, but
Biden wouldn't be a hard hard one to make. It wouldn't be a hard case to make. I mean, he's already been accused of like being too touchy with the girls, like right in fucking public camera. So
yeah,
I mean, it's not hard to see him being a little behind the scenes as well.
So there's that. It is going to be crazy.
This is our American politician system right now.
Yeah.
Fuck, man.
I think that's all we got for this week. But if we do see any in the next couple of weeks or our next podcast, if we see any more information that we want to bring up, but we thought we'd like to get this out there. And is there anything else you want to bring up?
I mean,
we kind of missed or didn't cover.
Again, I think originally the mind-blowing aspect of him was the plane, the island, the amount of girls, the amount of services, and how many people he served a client to. That was mind-blowing enough. This is a whole nother chapter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm almost like completely focused now on just the intelligence ties, how many people he knew around the world in their activities, foreign relations, everything, how many people he provided. I mean, you could say the plane itself was just the plane and just a lot of people flew on it. But when you get into, and which is going to probably be another investigation at one point, the ties he had with Israeli businesses and how they were funding defense contracts throughout the Middle East and everything. I mean, this is a whole nother ballgame.
It is.
And ties into intelligence. And then again, how does that tie into the intelligence community, utilizing those services, knowing damn well what was happening at the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this is going to be huge. And I'm kind of, part of me is kind of like appreciating the fact that we're living through the investigation right now. Like, this is our, you know, if you will, like this is going to be a historical moment throughout the rest of the year and going into 2021. And for decades, at least, I'm pretty sure people are going to be talking about the Epstein investigation and what came to fruition because of it.
Yeah.
And we're in the middle of it. So that to me is like, damn, right before an election.
Whew. We're going to see a lot of stuff, and we're going to keep an eye on it and a close watch, and any new information that we find out, we will bring it to you. So like it and subscribe, please. We want to do some more of these. And it's not just going to be stuff about this. We wanted, you know, we're going to talk about bands in the future, just things we like in general. But this one we think is a very important topic for the moment, and we hope you like it. And like and subscribe, share, comment, whatever you want to do. And we'll see you guys next time.
Rock on.